Hey, you lovely lot. So it's been quite the press conference actually here outside the courthouse, and we couldn't hear that well because they had all the microphones all rigged up to live stream. But I just want to give you some of the main points for me, and that's, well, hearing from Mark Geragos explain the legal points of the habeas, so the fact that there's new evidence. So this is not about the Netflix show Monsters. And in fact, I've talked to lots of people about the Netflix show, about so many of the scenes that were fictionalized, including, I was talking to some of them here about the toupee and the wig scenes. Those things never happened. I just spoke with Rob again, and he confirmed that Lyle wasn't allowed to wear the wig, the toupee, whilst he was in jail, and he could put it on for when he appeared in court, but that was it. So much of it was fictionalised, as I discussed with Rob. But hearing from Joan, Kitty's sister, she's 93 years of age, and she just said she never thought she'd see this day, like being here, seeing the support. She talked about so many things related to the abuse that at the time, people weren't ready to accept that boys and men could be raped or sexually abused. Well, I mean, Pamela Bozanich was the one saying in court that it's not possible because boys and men lack the necessary equipment, and people weren't willing to accept it. And I think that is true, because when we looked at the jury, the two hung juries, it was split on sex, that the women believed that boys and men could be raped, and Erik and Lyle were raped, but the men didn't. And that also talks to Jose Menendez of just how people believed him and thought that he was a pillar of the community, etc. So Joan was very powerful. Then Brian also spoke, Kitty's nephew. Brian Anderson's known Lyle and Erik all their lives, and he just said that no boys should ever have to experience what they did, and I totally agree. And the trauma. Anna Maria spoke about the trauma as well that both the boys suffered, and it's so powerful hearing from each family member that so much of their behaviour at times was misunderstood, like Erik always wanting the lemon and having meltdowns if he didn't get lemon or tomato ketchup, tomato sauce. And that was because he wanted it to numb the taste and his taste buds. And Joan said he still wants lemon whilst he's in prison with food to numb his taste buds. So these are all indicators of abuse, but at the time they just saw him just being tantrumous. And of course we know traumatized brains, the brain, children and babies, when there's trauma, it's like cortisol, acid waves across the brain, so they actually have smaller brains. So the neuroscience is there now. Well, you know, I always say with adults, it's hard when you are being abused, when you're being subjected to abuse, to deal with it. Well, imagine if you're a child and you're totally dependent on your mother and father, and that's all you know. And so you love them, but you're dependent on them, but you want the abuse to stop. And that's why they acted in the way that they did. So the family made a very strong case. They asked the DA to release Lyle and Erik and that they've served their time, and they launched a petition and a coalition, Justice for Erik and Lyle. It's actually the other way around, Justice for Lyle and Erik. So you can sign that petition, but it is time. And also I got a bit of intel that George Gascon has done an interview with, I think it was a Juju from NBC, and he actually said that he believes they have served their time. That interview hasn't gone out yet, but I think again it's favourable. It's a positive indication, I hope, of next steps and things to come. So it's been very powerful being here and just talking to people who support Lyle and Erik. And, you know, this is new. I mean, when I dropped my episodes on Real Crime Profile, I did episodes there, and also on Crime Analyst, there wasn't this level of support, and I got trolled very heavily, and now the tide is turning. So I did do some lives on TikTok, my first lives, but they didn't get to hear the live feed from the press conference. But there was a real buzz here today and a real sense of injustice for Lyle and Erik. So I hope that these wrongs are going to be corrected. And look, Lyle's 56 years of age, Erik is 53, so they've spent most of their life in prison. They haven't got much of their lives left, so I hope that the right things are done by them now. and I do believe it's a miscarriage of justice. They were over-sentenced, overcharged. The judge was extremely biased and unfair and unconstitutional in my opinion, but you can hear me talk more about that in Crime Analyst. So that's some of my live reporting from court, and I hope you found it useful of understanding what went on today. And George Gascon, on his website, it does say November 26th is when we were here, an informal response. I think it's interesting he did say November 29th. I don't know why he said that date, but of course he will make his recommendation and then it will be up to a judge. But the tide and the sentiment and the feeling here is very much on Lyle and Erik's side, and that speaks volumes.